In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where the models are indicating even colder temperatures than what we saw in yesterday's video, which is one of the coldest patterns I've ever seen the models predict, especially when considering the consistency and longevity of that cooldown. We're going to be seeing even more extreme cold temperatures on today's model runs, as well as one, maybe even more major snowstorms upcoming potentially. So let's just dive into things, and we're going to be taking a look at this. I want to take us past today. There's not a whole lot going on besides snow showers across the mountainous west and a little bit of ridging in the east, actually. And this is really some of the last ridging we're going to see in the east throughout this entire model run. This is pretty much the opposite of what we're going to be seeing for a majority of today's video. I want to take us straight towards tomorrow afternoon, and this is one of our first little cold fronts, and we have a weaker low here over the Great Lakes, a cold front swinging, and we can see that a little bit of a trough is beginning to move in. But I do anticipate for the east that tomorrow will be even warmer than today. For Monday, there seems to be quite a bit of a dry warm front out here to the east, and this is pulling the warm air up the east coast here. Meanwhile, out west, though, we do see this milder air beginning to grow for the west, and this is the primary feature that's going to be allowing for these cooler temperatures to move eastward. We also have still mountainous snowfall out west and even some coastal rainfall happening, so some storminess out west is the trend. I want to take us straight towards Tuesday on November 26th, and we begin to see the beginning of this first cooldown. So we see this bit of a dip. This is going to be a little bit milder than the ones that are coming in after this one. So this one is going to be decent. We will see pretty cool temperatures for these areas that are experiencing this. Even underneath this jet stream, these are going to be cooler temperatures than what they've been seeing. But overall, not even close to as cold as what we expect in the medium range. So out west, even though we're getting milder, we're still seeing that mountainous snowfall. And I talked about this yesterday, but these areas, even with above normal temperatures, are so high elevation that they still end up seeing snowfall. So that's what we see for the Sierra Nevada, the Southern Rockies, areas like that. Keep in mind that we were all year expecting to move into a La Nina, which is typically they vary, but typically not very favorable for the east, especially when compared to what we are now expecting, a neutral ENSO, which is basically the best phase for that El Nino Southern oscillation to be in. And the reason I bring this up is because typically in a La Nina, we don't see any precipitation throughout the southwest area, and we actually see the storms moving over top for like the Pacific Northwest and areas across the Northern Rockies. We've been seeing quite the opposite throughout the past few weeks, and we're expecting to see more of this southern jet through the southwest, and this is going to infuse storms into these cold air masses from the south. So very un-La Nina-like, which is really boding well into our kind of neutral ENSO prediction that we've been having for, I would say, 2 months now. As we move forward towards Wednesday afternoon, we do see the beginning of our next potential snowstorm, and this is going to be for the Four Corner states to begin with. We see some snowfall for Utah and Colorado, again, kind of coming from this southern jet, and we're going to see this one move across, and on this GFS model, we have seen a southern trend again. I've talked about this for the past week or so, that this model shows things a little bit too far southeast oftentimes. Yesterday, we saw this trend north back to where the European model was showing it. But now suddenly overnight, we've seen this model tick back to the south again and show a very suppressed storm where the cold air is just too intense and it's pushing it further south. This is obviously, as this model continues to show it, it is starting to gain some traction and is starting to have some confidence in this more southern route. Just because it has a southeast bias doesn't mean that it happens every single time, and it could very well be right. But with the flip-flopping we've been having, I am a bit skeptical. The European model has been a lot more consistent with a much more northern and inland storm, and we continue to see that in today's video. So in a minute, we're going to take a look at that. But let's see what this storm does on this model. And for Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, we see it already moving offshore of Virginia, the Delmarva, North Carolina, and bringing some snowfall to the kind of like mid-Atlantic, northeast areas, but it's just too early. It's coming in on Thursday, and the cold air is not expected until Thursday night into Friday. Let's watch that play out, actually. By the time we're reaching Friday afternoon, this is what we see plenty of cold air. All of these areas could very well see snowfall. It's cold enough for it, but the storm, as you can see, is way offshore already. It's already moved out, so it's way too far to the southeast. We would need the storm to be moving in during this Friday date, and we're drawing closer and closer. We're only about 5 days out now, so obviously we need things to change as far as the outlook on the models. Pretty quickly. We need to see some agreement here, and we had it yesterday, and now we've lost it again today, unfortunately. As we take a look at the Northwest, we do have some snowfall across the Cascades and Northern Rockies as they continue to see some snowfall off and on. Again, the Southwest has been seeing more of the action as of late. For Saturday on the 30th, we see the Northern Plains and Upper Midwest getting some snowfall as we're basically descended into a much cooler pattern throughout the East. Again, not quite as major as what we expect just after this point, actually. But there is really decent cold air in here, and also for the area south of the jet stream, it is colder than normal. And we still see this growing positive PNA out west. You don't need to really know what that means other than warm out west. When there's warm in the west, it causes that cold to not move towards it, but actually over and around it towards the east. So that's why the west's temperatures are so important, because it causes the cold to basically pour in to the eastern states just like this. Let's take a look at Sunday, and this is the beginning of our more major cooldown. When we see these lines closer together, we're seeing much more intense, not only wind, but also colder air in this pocket. So extreme cold air moving in for Sunday on December 1st for this area, and we can tell that things are very cold because we're seeing snow showers throughout portions of Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, Virginia perhaps, so these more southern areas, and they certainly don't typically see snowfall this early on, are seeing it in this instance. Let's keep going towards Monday on the 2nd, and things get even colder for these areas. We are seeing severe cold throughout these regions, especially when considering the time of year. We're going to be seeing temperatures that would be below normal for even January, or in other words, the peak of your winter in early December. So it is quite extreme. We do see the lakes get going. This is obvious, and we see this because of the fact that the lakes are very warm because it's early in the season. But not only that, we also see very brutal cold air move over that, and that's exactly what causes this lake effect snow factory to basically start producing these heavy snowfall events that could last days. And we expect a major lake effect snow event here for the beginning of December timeframe. And typically, historically, November, December is that peak lake effect snow season because the lakes are still warm, and that brutal cold air, it moves in every couple of years that early on. And when we see that combination, we get these major events. And right now, the models have both. Let's keep going. I want to take us straight towards Tuesday on December 3rd. And what we're seeing here is some snowy weather here across the lakes. Also for the mid-Atlantic, we're continuing to see that lake effect snowfall while we have a deep diving trough, even deeper now than it was before, with now the cold air centered over the eastern states. So we are seeing a bullseye for somewhere over the east by the time we're reaching Tuesday on December 3rd. Keep in mind, I want to backtrack a little bit. We're looking at the first tier Sunday, the second, the third, and now moving into the fourth. So that's 4 days so far that we're looking at a major cooldown here for these parts of the nation. We continue to see it for Wednesday. The lake effect snow is still going, even some snow showers across the upper Midwest and northern plains. Let's take it towards the 5th, and this will be our 5th day of our cooldown, and it will be moving out. This initial one, at least, will be moving out by Thursday, December 5th. So 5 days of very cold temperatures compared to normal. For the Friday 6th time frame, we might even still be slightly below normal, but not quite as cold as things were. We do see a bit of a minor to moderate snow event happening there across the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Let's keep going. I want to take us towards Saturday, and we see another pretty major low. This looks like a clipper a little bit here to the south of the Hudson Bay, and this has been kind of what's been bringing our cooldowns very frequently throughout this fall and now moving into early winter. And I expect it to do the same here. So let's see what happens by Sunday. And sure enough, look at Sunday. We get this low moving kind of around the Great Lakes here into this area. Meanwhile, it has a dragging cold front the whole way through. And that's what's pulling this Arctic air back down into the United States. And we're seeing it again just a couple days after our previous one ended. Notice what stayed consistent and strong is this positive PNA out west, and this is why we're seeing so many days in a row and so many cooldowns one after another, because that warm air is staying consistent out west. And as long as that's the case, expect more and more cooldowns for the east. For Sunday morning, we have snow showers, at least mixed precipitation showers throughout this kind of Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast corridor here. As we keep going, we get that major cooldown here. And look at this, another major low moving over the Great Lakes, and it looks like it's pulling another cooldown in. We see this low here, dragging cold front, and that cooldown is moving in quite rapidly. So another one perhaps as we reach close to the midway point of December with more snowfall for the Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic. That is the end of this model run, unfortunately. And again, that was very extreme, but that is the warmer of our two models and the less snowy of our two models. So let's go ahead and move into the Old Faithful European model here. And as we take a look here, I want to move us towards Monday, Tuesday. We see a cold front come through. Colder air is moving in, but let's see the difference with our storm. Look at where it moves up into. It moves from the Four Corner States up into Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio here, and the GFS model meanwhile was way down here with it, whereas we see the European model way up to the north here. We see this low forming over Kentucky, snowfall starting out for the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast there on Thursday morning. We do see this one by Thursday afternoon bringing some snowfall to Pennsylvania, New York, New England. Again, a much more major snowfall event. And it's still earlier than what we were originally anticipating, a storm moving in by Friday. So definitely interesting to see that these models are, as far as timing, kind of on board with each other, but the track is way different, and it leads towards a huge difference in the potential snowfall that this system would bring. By the time we reach Friday, we're left with that very cold air. Here's Saturday, Sunday the 1st. Look at the lakes going crazy. Again, look for a major lake effect snowfall event to end November and to begin December. We do see by Tuesday, some low pressure action is happening near the Gulf as we have this severe cold air right here. And again, very El Nino-like. We're seeing these storms track in with a southern jet through the south like this. This is not something you see in a La Nina, and this is pointing towards basically us not being anywhere near a La Nina pattern right now. Not only that, we have this very strong positive PNA holding strong on this model as well. So we end up with this colder air for a lot of the east and a storm moving through the south. Let's see what happens. Deep south snowfall, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. That's a little far-fetched. There is tons of cold air, but very rare for December, let alone the very beginning of December for areas this south to see it. The European model does not have a southeast bias, but it sometimes does show crazy stuff, and it doesn't tend to do this, but that doesn't mean that this is going to be correct. But it shows you how cold the air is and that there will be storms moving through. We'll watch it closely, of course. We see this cold air lasts equally as long on this model as it did on the GFS model. And we do get this second cooldown, again, sparked by a low pressure system between the Great Lakes and the Hudson Bay there. The lakes get going again, so we might get like a 4 or 5 day break before another massive lake effect outbreak occurs here. And we get another really intense area of cold air moving in for the 8th here into the 9th. And it looks like we're actually getting some recycling in here. And this could spill back into the east again. Meanwhile, we still hold on strong to this positive PNA through the end of this entire model run. So again, colder and snowier than yesterday's model runs, which I didn't even know was really possible at this point. Let's take a look at the total precipitation. We do see plenty along the west. This is a little bit below average for the Northwest, actually. They expect a lot this time of year, and a bit above average for the Southwest corridor. And then we're actually getting closer to average for a lot of these eastern areas, which is very, very good news. Let's look at the anomalies real quickly. And again, spotty, but there is some areas very close to normal in here. And even a lot of these lighter browns aren't too bad as far as how much precipitation they're seeing compared to normal. The main area where we're seeing below average is this deep south Gulf state area, and then also the northwest, while we have above average precipitation through these areas here. Very interesting and kind of sloppy. It's hard to break down, but that is what we're looking at. The total snowfall in the GFS model, obviously we're seeing a little bit less in these corridors because there's a lack of a storm that the European model does have. We can see that the lakes get feet of snowfall, so that is, you know, kind of pointing towards that lake effect event that I've been saying and calling for. We see that the Sierra Nevada mountains get the most in the mountainous west. The kind of Cascades area get maybe 1 to 2 feet. Same with the Rockies, but the Sierra Nevada, we might be talking 3, 4, 5 feet out there. Tons of snowfall. The European model, which is basically the same out west, we're going to take a look at these eastern areas. We get the plentiful amounts of lake effect snowfall for all of these areas here, where we get, again, feet of snowfall. But not only that, we're getting a bit more through this corridor because of that snowstorm that this model calls for. So also the Ohio Valley getting quite a bit, multiple inches. Very interesting. Carolinas get some, but again, don't count on that. That is very rare any time of year, really, but for this time of year in particular. And when we look at the accumulated positive total snow depth change, this is going to basically be what sticks. We do end up with a few inches here through a lot of the Ohio Valley, Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, into the Northeast, and areas further inland getting, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of snowfall in the blues. Purples are 6 to 10, and then pinks are 10 to 20. So tons for these mountainous areas like the Adirondacks, Green Mountains, White Mountains, Northern Maine, and even the Berkshires here. Very plentiful amounts of snowfall. Now the temperature pattern, let's move through it. We do see colder air moving into the east. Surprise, surprise. Again, starts out more mild. This is that little bit of a mild cool down where we're seeing, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees below normal. Even a few areas seeing 1, 2, or 3 degrees above normal. We're going to see this next one, though, move in. Here is Friday on the 29th, and we get much more major cold air in the east. But for Sunday the 1st, we start to see this hugely major area of cold air. Let's take a look at Monday the 2nd here. The blues are 1 to 10 degrees below normal. The greens are 10 to 15. The magenta or blues within the greens are kind of purplish there, are 15 to 25 degrees below normal. And the magentas are 25 degrees or more below normal. So really, really cold temperatures moving in. This is not, you know, just a little bit of a cool down. This is severely cold temperatures that we're seeing move in. And if you watch out west, we just continue to see this warmth prevail the whole entire model run, which is huge. As we keep going, that cold air sticks around for days. It looks like it's warming up, but we get another pretty decent cold shot. This would be major most other times, but it's just undershadowed by that previous cooldown we saw. And then it looks like even more might be on the way as we end this model run. As we take a look at the European model, we move through it. Again, brief warm up, bit of a cool down, and then we get this severe cold air moving in. Here's the 1st of December, 2nd of December, 3rd of December, 4th of December, 5th of December, 6th of December, and this model just brings another massive one. This one's even more major, actually. This would be, you know, something that you remember for like 10 years, this type of cold. This reminds me of a lot of what we saw in 2013 to 2014. Also, I think there was one year where we had a like polar vortex event. That might have been like 2022 in the end of December timeframe. Correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of you are better with weather history than I am. It might have been 2023 December. I don't know. Or no. It definitely would have been 2022 or 2021. So something like that. But we saw a major cold air move into the east. One of those Decembers, very late. I think it was around Christmas and just after it. And this is reminiscent of that. These temperatures that are 25 to 35 degrees below normal, widespread 15 to 25 degrees below normal. This would bring frigid temperatures for so many folks. And as we reach the end of this model run, it's basically recycling. We're building up this second area, and this looks like it wants to swing in as well. So very cold, quite snowy in the upcoming pattern is the current look. Anyway, guys, we do upload every single day, and we're going to continue to track this daily with you guys. So be sure to subscribe for those daily videos. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.